I call Dr. Sabradhikari to the desk for his talk.
Good morning, everyone. So as you can see, my topic is more about the national policy perspectives. And I must thank Lorraine for inspiring me to a few interesting ideas which I'll touch upon when we go through it. What we had, this is the oldest document on the left side from the Government of India. It was published in 2003, which talked about IT infrastructure for health, or ITIH. So this IT infrastructure for health, which was published in 2003, about 17 years back, you can see there, the topmost part of the tripod is standards. Standards is one area which is quite neglected. The other two important areas, one is a legal framework. You need to have a legislation like in US, I think the HIPAA Act is a single act which has really done a lot for this digital health. And the third is education, really capacity buildings, workforce building, whichever way you say. And those still remain the cornerstones. Now in last year, Government of India has published this National Digital Health Blueprint, where you can see the vision is to create this ecosystem for supporting UHC, that is universal health coverage, through the provision of wide range of data, information, and infrastructure services. So as Lauren was saying, data is definitely key to it, and not just data alone, but also we have to look at the security, confidentiality, and privacy part. This is the other important policy document from the Government of India, the National Health Policy, the third edition, which came out in 2017. So here also it talks about setting up the National Digital Health Authority. It's a regulatory authority which will have a legislative power to regulate or really facilitate the development of ecosystem. I think Lauren was stressing again and again, and that's where we all probably concur, that decision makers, although when the policy document we look at it, the way it is more visionary, but when the implementers or the executives really work on it, they look at the short-term gains only, not the long-term ones. So we have very well-planned policy document, the National Health Policy, will talks about this setting up of the National Digital Health Authority, which is almost 3 years now, but it's yet to be set up. That's how life is. I had actually gone into depth writing on this. So this was an editorial published last year. I'll talk more about it later. And I had also written another editorial on the role of standards for digital health and health information management. Because I am working on standards for the last 10 years or so. I've been chair of HL7 India, and I've been an international expert for the SNOMED City e-learning advisory group. So I'm very much keen about it when we talk about standards, workforce development. And when we talk about health information management, obviously we need to go the right way. This is just a small glimpse. I mean, what are the opportunities? We were talking about opportunities. We are having these policy documents. We are having the work environment changing. So there are various avenues, and this is especially for the students and young professionals who are here. And many of these would change. Here are some of the things, the sort of jobs you can expect in near future is mentioned, but more and more such jobs will come. And if you look at the skills framework for information age, the SFIA, if you look at the SFIA, usually what happens, traditionally the way on-the-job training was done, and now the way it is going on is quite different. So we need to actually go through this. Of course, setting strategy, inspiring, those things would come probably at a later stage of the career, but when we go into it, we have to learn a lot of new tricks. And that's not easy, because to do that, we need to unlearn a lot. So it's learn, unlearn, and relearn. And this unlearn part, we are not comfortable. We have to come out of our comfort zone. That frightens us. Inherently, we stick to comfort of the old knowledge, and that's, of course, at our own cost. When we talk about interoperability, if you look at this, is not just technical. Although not easy, but the technical interoperability is relatively the easier part. It's the human layer. When you talk about process interoperability, clinical interoperability, business process interoperability, and more importantly, the institutional layer, the culture, the education, the regulations, those are very, very difficult to change. Even in India, health is a state subject, like many other countries. So different state governments can frame different governance policies for health. And that is perfectly right with our constitution. But when we talk about this, we need to keep this in mind. So interoperability, if anyone talks about it, it's a simple thing. It's not, because it's not technical interoperability alone. You're talking about the fourth industrial revolution, or which is now the new term has come, Industry 4.0. So because Industry 4.0 is there, so we now have Health 4.0. And what is the critical factor here is, of course, artificial intelligence and robotics. More and more automation for most of the things. In fact, there's a fierce debate, is AI going to replace the doctors? Which of course won't happen, because computers and human brain together would always be more than the human brain or the computer alone. So that is what we need to look at. AI is really enabling, empowering, rather than taking away the human jobs. So to make this Health 4.0 a reality, the World Health Organization last year formed a division of digital health. And this division of digital health is coming up with a global digital health strategy 2020 to 24. The draft was given last year in April, and many of us gave comments for it. And now it's been revised, so it's likely to be adopted in the World Health Assembly in May. So in another 3 months, we'll be having the Global Digital Health Strategy 2020 to 24. And we need to be looking at it as a great opportunity. So what they're planning to define is digital health as a field of knowledge and practice associated with any aspect of adopting digital technologies to improve health, from inception to operation. So it's a huge umbrella. It's not just a small thing you pick up here and there. So the digital health, and that's going to be a reality. It's inevitable. And we have to be prepared for it. I think, like IFHIMA strategy, they said we need to be prepared for the technology. And that is very, very essential. How are the other educational authorities looking at it? So the Medical Council of India had brought out guidelines for the national medical competencies for the learners of Indian medical graduate. So one of the goals is this leader and member of the healthcare team and system with capabilities to collect, analyze, synthesize, and communicate health data appropriately. That's great. So even the Medical Council of India recognizes that this is a need. Of course, it has not spelled out. How do we generate the health data literacy? Health data literacy is not something with which healthcare providers are familiar with, either the doctors or the nurses or the administrators. But that is really needed. I mean, if you don't have this health data literacy, you are not going to become a leader and member of a healthcare system with capabilities to collect, analyze, synthesize, and communicate health data appropriately. So this is one area which I think is an opportunity, and all the educators here, all those who are thinking of capacity building, workforce development, you have to keep in mind digital health literacy is the most important, the first thing to be achieved. This is another way of looking at it, health information technology, health information management. They're essentially subsets of health informatics. So while the technology is talking more about the tools, whether it's computer, hardware, software, network, and so on, and when we talk about management, we talk more about the records, coding, documentation. Health informatics is over-encompassing, all the things put together. So Professor Sabu is here. He and I have been involved with framing this model curriculum handbook for health information management on behalf of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. That was done about 3-4 years back. This is 2015-16. Subsequently, now a bill has been placed in the Parliament of India for this allied health sciences. The Council of Allied Health Sciences, the bill is called the Allied Health Professional Bill. Right now, it is being discussed by the Standing Committee of the Parliament. So they are suggesting some changes, but it's likely to become a law very soon. Once we have this bill, Allied and Health Professional Bill, and health information management is an integral part of it. It's a discipline for which, as I said, we have also developed curriculum, and a lot of work is happening already and more going to happen. It's very important while tools and technology goes on advancing very fast. It's easy to adapt, comparatively easier to adapt to the technology change, but not so much to the process. But the most difficult is the people part. Change management and capacity building. Unless you do that, change management and capacity building, and even if you do some change, you can see sustaining that is the very, very, very difficult thing. As I was saying, the National Digital Health Blueprint has come out last year, and they're talking about the National Digital Health Mission. So within the part of the operations team, they are looking at overseeing all activities of operation, including implementation, training, support, and modification. But these look more like ad hoc things, not really formal, structured training which is required, because digital health is coming in a big way globally, and India is not going to be an exception. So definitely we need to look at it for training the workforces going ahead. Just one other thing I would like to talk about before I open it for discussion is ICD-11 was released in June 2018, so 1.5 years back. And it's officially supposed to be effective from 1st of January 2022. Of course, it's not going to happen, but ICD-11 is one-to-one mappable with SNOMED City. That's why the functionalities that we are getting that way. And the ICD-11 browser is active. So all of you who are here, you can just go to the ICD-11 browser and have a taste of it. Fundamentally, it's quite different from ICD-10. So initially, there might be some problems, but go on playing with it. And then maybe, you never know, you may actually become an expert in ICD-11 even before it's adopted, and then that could also open new job opportunities. So I think that's the end of my talk, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Suptan. Any question from the audience?
Sir, whether you're maintaining electronic record and also physically record, sir.
Which one?
Maintaining all in government institution, whether maintaining physical record or electronic record.
EMR adoption is being starting. See, the first guidelines the ministry brought out for EHR standards was in August 2013. That time India was not a member of SNOMED City, but in March 2014, India became a member of SNOMED City. So in the second edition, the revised edition for the EHR standards of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, SNOMED City is very much there.
But now India is following only ICD-10, maybe implicated in SNOMED.
ICD is the International Statistical Classification of Diseases, which is meant for epidemiological purposes. That doesn't help in clinical data mining. When you want to do clinical analysis, research, if you want to develop clinical decision support systems, a lot of things can be done by using SNOMED City. As I said, ICD-11 is one-to-one mappable with SNOMED City. Even ICD-10, there's a lookup table. So if you have a SNOMED City-enabled DHR system, you can easily put down the ICD codes, not the other way around, because ICD codes are much less in number compared to it. But ICD, what happens, it's mono-hierarchical. It's a classification. Okay, it's a classification tool. It's not a terminology system. So what happens, viral pneumonia is only a lung disorder. It is not an infective disorder. Whereas if you use SNOMED City, it is both. It is an infective disorder, viral disorder, as well as it is a lung disorder. It's polyhierarchical. Clinical knowledge is essentially polyhierarchical. So if you want to have clinical meaning, granularity in SNOMED City is much more. But as I said, ICD-11 will be the reporting standard because it's a WHO standard. All countries have to report epidemiological purposes through ICD. And ICD-11, as I said, is already released. June 2018, it was released. So you can have a look at the ICD-11 browser and then you can get better idea about it.
Okay. Then. Any more questions from the audience? Okay, I have one small question because most of the audience is from medical records. In medical record perspective, how much the new document which has come up, that is National Digital Health Blueprint, how it will give the impact to the medical record people?
That's a very good question. In fact, what the National Digital Health Blueprint says that you follow the Ministry of Health recommendations of EHR standards 2016 with an addition of HL7 FHIR. FHIR is the Fast Health Interoperability Resources. FHIR is being used globally by many countries for the simple reason that you can make APIs, application programming interface, or open APIs based on FHIR, and you can exchange data from diverse systems very easily. So National Digital Health Blueprint is also talking about adopting FHIR. The other thing which about the SNOMED cities, I mean ICD you can put the codes manually, but SNOMED city is not meant for paper records. SNOMED city is meant for electronic medical records. If you don't have an EHR system, you cannot use SNOMED city.
What will impact to the medical record people? We will implement that one.
See, the legal part that I was showed there, the legal part is yet to come because we still don't have a legal mandate. So still we don't have enough of electronic medical records in India. But I think the legal mandate will come sooner or later because National Digital Health Mission is also probably going to bring out that because unless you give the digital records, you won't get reimbursement because Ayushman Bharat is all linked to pay. So some way or the other, the top-down approach has to come. The other way, which I always feel, there's also a bottom-up approach. Users are going to demand. Users are going to come. They can say, they're going to demand. It's going to happen very soon. I won't come to this doctor or this hospital if I cannot access my record wherever I go. And it's a global village. It's not just another city or another state, another country, another continent, maybe Antarctica also. People do go for expedition there. And if someone falls sick in Antarctica or the space, they would definitely like to have access to all their health records, not just what they remember.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sabdadhikari. Nice talk, and definitely give a glimpse to the audience.